the gameplay changes. So why that? Well, like any game, the gameplay is the core of the game. It decides whether it lives or dies, or how long it lives. Or dies. Or when. Or if it dies. Sometimes in a gameplay could be so good, it lasts forever. I highly doubt anybody's playing J-Stars right now, to be real with you. And even though it did have the star power, and that's actually, now that I brought that up, the star power is the real reason why anybody would be playing this game right now, not the gameplay. The gameplay, as we previously discussed, is trash. So why am I showing it here on the Jump Force reconstruction? I thought we did all the talking already. As we reconstruct Jump Force, we have to take what they didn't bring from J-Stars and bring it to Jump Force. So one of those things that may have been obvious, maybe for the better, is that there is no lock-on system. This lock-on system was put in place and accommodates the 2v2 system. Obviously, that it was a kind of a weird thing to look at, the lock-on icon, and it being gone from Jump Force is really cool. It's just great. However, that doesn't mean that we don't need something like that. The ability to walk around in J-Stars and actually enjoy the map itself was something I always appreciated, and one good thing that I liked to have in Jump Force. So we bring that back. Keep that in mind. You see what Ace is doing right now? This is something that I'm sure some of you may not even notice it was gone. Characters don't run in Jump Force. Every character dashes when you use the dash button. Well, it makes sense because it's a dash button. But not every character should be dashing, as so in Jump Force. This is a design decision to make the game go faster in Jump Force. However, in here, it's just another thing that adds to the character. Ace is not running like Luffy would. He's running like Ace would, with his hat on. I mean, with his head on, his hand on his hat. And then we'll follow up with an attack. This is a very key attribute that people really look over. The fact the running animation into the hit from the character is pretty much very important detail. Some may not even agree with that, but it's something we also consider to bring back. So far we got the lock-on system and the running animations, both in two features that are cut out in Jump Force due to the pace of the game itself, not really needing it, but surely does make a difference. Let's talk about some Sanji for a moment. Now with Sanji's gameplay, you know he attacks a female with hearts, as he should be. It's true to his character, and it's one of the things that Spike Chunsoft has did correctly with Sanji. However, one of the things they didn't do that they did good in Burning Blood, which they kind of took in their Sanji from, because they did Burning Blood as well, is that he does not do damage with his hearts. So remember, I told you to keep in mind the lock-on system and the running. Let's attribute that. Let's add that to Sanji. Let's say in a new version of the game, we add running back to all the running characters instead of just doing the dash, and adding the lock-on system without the annoying lock-on, of course. Like a quick little lock-on indicator when there's two people on the field. And let's assume that the new version will have a 2v2 feature. And now let's put Sanji in a handicap match. An obvious challenge were to somehow be to allow Sanji to stay in character while facing Galena and Kane at the same time. He'll do some real damage to Kane, but what's going to stop Galena from getting in front of that hit? This is a huge issue, but we're still going to consider adding lock-on and a running to the game, even with this huge issue. In fact, let's focus on a character that can do what Sanji can't do. Now, this isn't a specific character data or a character focus. I'm sure we'll get to something like that a little later on. But I'm bringing up Jotaro because Jotaro is a character that could benefit from the lock-on system and even the running as well. With his Aura and My Stand, or even Star Finger. These are things that could benefit from a running animation from Jotaro. But there's something else I forgot to mention a little earlier. I know we've mentioned a few features from J-Stars like Lock On and of course the running. But I failed to mention one more feature that could possibly be added. A double jump. Now, there is no double jumping in this game. Should there be? Well, when I look at characters like Jotaro and Sanji, Sanji actually benefits from the double jump, incredibly so. Because of his, one of his moves, Diable Spector. I think it was a Spector move. One of Sanji's Spector moves. I think it's a Circle or B special on if you have an Xbox or PlayStation. He actually benefits from that move as well. So we have a few things to consider to bring back from Jump Force, from J-Stars to Jump Force. The running animations, the double jump, and of course that the second jump could cost stamina, and of course there is the lock-on system, which should be either a staple in the game regularly, or if there was a 2v2 option. Let's keep this in mind, but let's move forward with it. So what could we improve from just looking at a Jump Force in itself? What to improve? Well, for starters, we can expand on the damn stages in the damn game. Now, this I know wouldn't take much effort in a new version, especially if you're focusing on a damn new version of the game. Expanding on the... Look at that, it's already modeled. Like, how much do I really have to say? Please, expand on that. Make us go all the way to the Sunny. Make us jump on the Sunny. You know, make us go to that sign right there. So many more options like that in stages is just super appreciated and needed in a new version. And adding more moves for each and every character. Now, this isn't an asking, or this isn't a demand. This is simply a need for Jump Force. This is part of the character depth I was talking about. The lack thereof. For each character to have a total of 9 moves for a new version would be insane and definitely fantastic. It would definitely up the game. Now, that does raise concern for more broken stuff, but depending on what you add for each character, it could really help the meta move along in a more cleaner setting. Having more moves options to actually battle other options helps more than having basically nothing, or having just one counter for Goku. He has one counter to rely on. Maybe he has another move that's not a counter. Well, that can actually help him escape the move a little better than a counter would. See, things like this is why that having extra 4 abilities and even a full awaken only ability would be beauteous in a new version. This feature in itself, now I did do the wheel here because that would be a lot better in handling more moves, and it is kind of an inspiration of the wheel emoji, emotes in the lobby system. And I'm pretty sure that's not the last time you'll be seeing that wheel here, as we'll talk about in a second. But pretty much adding more moves, extra abilities. Now, how it's earned? Now, it could be preset. It could be earned through the store with real money, or it could be, or certain moves can be earned with the raid boss events or a specific clan achievement within the new version, or whatever new feature or mode is added to the game, it could be earned through that way. The nicest thing to do would be having presets for every character, but having the extra ability spot and then having the new player or player after they got the new version or received a new version earn the characters would make a little, not the characters, the abilities would make a little bit more sense. And one thing I want to note too before we get into this health thing, because I increased the bar a little bit from 5 to 6, because you're working with new moves, so obviously you have to raise the bar a little bit, just a little bit. So that increases the meta a little bit. I wanted to mention the full awakening technique here, only ability. I really put that there because there's no incentive to wait until your bar hits full. You know, some people just want to use their super as soon as possible, but having a incentive like hey, if you wait till your awakening is full, not only do you get extra damage, but you get access to awaken only ultimate. So that's why I put that there. And of course, you're seeing right now taunts. Now, you know I've complained about the taunts. Yes, I've said they should have been in this game, and there's no excuse for it. And you know I mentioned something about the emotes. Now, yes, there should be in it. If you're going to put the emotes for the KAC in the lobby, you could put, especially when some of those emotes are from characters already in the game, then there's no reason not to put those in the game for the characters themselves to use within the gameplay. Of course, cinematic and all, just like J-Stars. And if you notice, we're using all the D-pad here. So we're going to progressively talk about which direction means what. Just like here, the left direction on the D-pad is to call out your 4th support character or your 4th playable character here to the battle, just like you would of Vegeta on the L2 or LT button on your respective controller. Now, how would a lock-on system work if all these are taken up and it is not the up D-pad? Well, I can see a guard and going left and right on the D-pad. Now, I think this will be smooth. I did test it out on a controller. This would be a little bit smooth, more smooth than up. So I think that's a little bit better. But now we'll be on to what possibly could be the function of the up D-pad. This one might be a controversial pick on my part, but not really a pick in general, just a option. You know, when I bring up Street Fighter Third Strike, you know what's about to happen. A parry option for Jump Force. How would that function exactly in Jump Force? Don't we already have high-speed dodges and high-speed counters? But you know, there's something that people really take for granted and not really use, well, pretty much doesn't really have a very great function in the game in general. There's up rush, down rush, and of course, there's the normal heavy rush in the game. And there's no, I mean, obviously, if you want to hit your opponent up, you do an up rush, and if you want to hit your opponent low on the ground, then you do a bottom rush, a combo. But there's no real incentive to do one over the other, besides you probably want to do a combo in the air, and that's if you really need to. And I'll be honest with you, there's really no need to, right? Here's the thing. Right now, what I'm doing with Yusuke, I'm testing out the functionality of the how quick can you block, and how quick can you low kick, how quick can you high kick. This is something else we're also going to be adding to a new version that should be added. An up heavy rush and a down heavy rush. Now, I know I just mentioned parries, right? Well, how would you parry any of these? Well, you would press up on the D-pad, and it would go to a short stance, and then you would try to guess the normal move. So what would that do? It could do a number of things, but it's going to increase the meta of this game by a ton. Now, if the game can handle the speed of high-speed counters and high-speed dodges, it can handle a damn parry. And I think that should be implemented into the game as the final feature for the game. and how, you know, how I've freaking messed up the explanation. Pretty much not only adding the up button, adding more up rush, up down, heavy rush, but adding side rush too to open up a new combo that hits your opponent backwards. Let's take a look here at the review of the D-pad here. The left is to call your support character, the right is to press with the corresponding button to perform the extra ability, hold down for the taunt wheel, and up is to press on the corresponding buttons to perform a parry, which is the stance like I just said, and it builds up stamina. So here's a situation in the game currently you find yourself in. Usually a character finds himself in some bullcrap situation where you do have no more stamina and you don't know what to do. Pretty much a parry could be like this. If you do a successful parry in the game, it uses up meter, and you know you're going to have enough meter a lot more times than you have enough stamina. If you do a successful parry, it pushes your opponent back. It does not damage them, and it does not damage you, but it makes you have a little short neutral standoff in the game, and it helps you build some stamina back. However, if you missed it, you'll get a debuff, so it does hurt you. And I believe that is the best way to go about it. And it's like I said, especially if they can handle high-speed counters and dodges, they can implement a parry feature like such. Not only will make people watch what they throw out when it turns, like if you press I forgot how to mention this, but if you press like a low rush, you go to parry that, you gotta press the stance button, go into parry stance and quickly press the low rush to parry it. So that's how it would work, and it would work for the up rush, up heavy rush. Basically, it brings more skill to the table. Let's take a look at everything I just discussed. Pretty much, in this new version of Jump Force, hashtag new version of Jump Force, this is a movement too. This is a movement. It is a super movement. Extended abilities, having a total from 8 to 9 instead of just 4. They could all be earnable. Increase the meter from 5 to 6 because you're working with more stuff, more meters and stuff, more moves and abilities. Increase normals, adding a heavy rush up, heavy rush down for every character, adding a side rush, which you could push left and right, but it makes your opponent goes behind you instead of in front of you, and the parry ability. It builds up stamina, but takes up 1 bar meter, or vice versa, but I'd rather that because it's so much better, especially in situations where you find yourself with no stamina. You're usually pretty done in a game like Jump Force. I think these gameplay changes will help Jump Force in a new version definitively. So we got done the gameplay changes, and I think we made some successful progress here. We've definitely covered a lot of problems with the game initially, and I think in a new version, this would be amazing. But now that we finally built the foundation, it's time to continue our reconstruction and resurrection. But where do we go from here? We've done an essential and core part of this resurrection. So I think it's time for us to go to